the mental illness between health professionals, it's around 60%, and the general population, it's 28%.
Okay, well, I'd like to welcome everybody back to another session of Views from the Field. And today we have a very special guest, a guest teacher who's a friend of mine who I've met several years ago back here in Portugal, where I am now visiting, and where she is in a very special place. So I'd like to welcome Barbara Bettencourt. Barbara, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.
That special place is, and correct my Portuguese, please, I'm going to say it's the Açores.
Açores, yeah.
Açores. Okay, I'll get it at some point in my Portuguese studies, yeah. And we know it in the U.S. as the Azores, the islands of the Azores. So maybe you could just say a little bit about the Azores. There's probably a lot of people who are viewing who aren't familiar with the islands.
Well, I may say, but I have to ask you to keep this a kind of a secret, okay? Because this is really a very special place. So my family is from here, and so I live in Lisbon, in the capital, but I was born there, but I am here since I was 1 month, and I always am here. And now I decided not only summer, but also in winter. And this is the 9 island, like in the middle of the ocean, lots of cows, greenness, ocean. I don't know. It's just lakes, peace. And we have a lot of American moving here. It's incredible in Portugal and also here, but not only. I think this is a peaceful place, and people are willing to change now and find some places to live here. So it's very special. Between the ocean and between the green, I don't know what I love more. If the ocean, if the green and and the people are very kind. The food is amazing. I always get some kilos back. I always take some kilos back with me. Yeah, the food, the wine. Yeah.
I had lunch with a Portuguese gentleman here where we are in Douro, and talked to him about Açores. Again, excuse me. He just simply said it's heaven. So as a way of introduction, Barbara, you are a medical doctor and became a medical doctor in 1997 since 2008.
Yeah, I don't remember. It was a long time ago. I'm getting old. Yeah.
And a qualified MBSR teacher with the UC San Diego Center for Mindfulness since 2019. Yeah, and that's where I had the good pleasure of meeting you in one of our teacher trainings up in Barcelos, Portugal, with Steve Hickman and Vitor. And you're a life coach, mindful parenting facilitator, a mother of 4 children, so you're getting a lot of experience with that facilitation. And the most interesting thing that's always fascinated me, an alpinist at heart. So I've always admired your courage and your commitment to mountain climbing. I can't imagine the concentrated mindfulness that it takes to practice, as a practice to climb a mountain. So maybe I'd be interested, at least, and maybe you could say a few words about that kind of intersection of mindfulness practice and being an alpinist, mountain climbing, and how those two kind of interweave or connect.
Well, that's an interesting question. It's good. So I think I can see 2 different parts here, maybe. The first one, and I remember the first time I went to Chile by myself. I was not climbing yet. I just got divorced and I said, okay, let's go by myself, let's go alone to Chile and stay there almost 2-3 weeks. So I just went like an adventure. And the guy said, oh, I think you have a good performance. So why don't you let's go and climb? And I said, okay. I didn't know that it could exist something like the sickness altitude. So I went. And after a while, I was starting to feel bad because it was a 5,000 and I had not at all prepared. So I looked to my shadow and I said, okay, I will have to focus on my shadow. In fact, he said, he suggested that look to your shadow and we'll reach the top. So I think that was my first mindfulness practice because I had to focus on my shadow and I looked to the shadow and returned and breathe in and breathe out and breathe in. So I think this is what when I am climbing for many hours and I have to keep my breath. I have to keep my concentration. I have to keep calm. I have to keep my motivation. I think that is where mindfulness really helped me. I try to do a lot of mindful walking while I'm climbing. And that really, really helps me. But also, I think the silence really helps you because all that space around you, and you cannot even talk because you are breathless, so you can't even talk. So I think you go into the world where it's easier to just stay with you and to stay focused. And I think and again, I love Nepal. And so everything that I try, I love Himalayas. I'm completely obsessed. And every time I can, I go there. And I think also that Buddhist environment, being in monasteries, listening to those, those music things, like going all around the mountains, seeing their commitment with praying and its colors, that also it's a way of bringing a lot of mindfulness to that moment and to help me, really helps me to rebalance.
Yes. Those beautiful images. And, we're on being produced with Mark Foreman. We're on Sing to the Mountain Studios. So it's a bit of a mountain theme here. And I'm scared of heights. So I'm going to stay with views from the field, literally. So I just have to tie that into all this. So how did your path begin, becoming a doctor into the field of mindfulness? And, we always invite our guest teachers to go as far back into their life as you can recollect or would like to, as to where these inspirations happen for you.
First time I came from my first trek in Himalayas in Nepal, a friend of mine said, okay, let's go to a retreat. And I said, well, I'm not going to retreat. I'll not be able. Well, but I did because I just arrived from 3 weeks in Everest-based camp trip. And I said, okay, let's go. And I think that starts to make sense. So I started to go in this direction. Then I did mindful parenting. I did coach. And then everything was really making sense for me. And I think combining with doctor life, very difficult, and more it's so challenging. And something was missing. And so I said, okay, this makes sense. Let me see what I can do. Maybe we'll share this with others. And I think being a doctor, I didn't want just to say, oh, let's sit and meditate. No. So I said, okay, let's see what it's more scientific based nowadays. And it's when I met MBSR. It's when I met you.
So I had the good pleasure of going to your clinic that you run. I was surprised at how kind of all encompassing in a holistic way of a practice that you've developed there. So what kind of medical medical, what's the word I'm looking for, modalities, or, do you serve through your clinic? What do your doctors at the clinic practice?
Oh, it's a classic clinic with pediatrics, with the endocrinology, with the nutritionist, psychology, gynecology, and internal medicine. So it's a classic thing. But I think my partners, so I'm the owner of the clinic with another four doctors. They are open. They know I'm a little bit crazy, but not so crazy, and they trust me that it's this may be good, bringing mindfulness to the society, and I'm like bring this also to them, and so they say, okay, you can use the space free. So I think it's very kind. That's why for them it's okay to.
Yeah, and it's a beautiful space. So really, you can serve a person very completely, very holistically with everything that's at your clinic, and now you're bringing in mindfulness. So what are the programs that you're teaching there? What programs do you teach as part of your mindfulness practice?
MBSR. And that it's interesting you say that, because what I see is clients from the clinic, then they see MBSR and they join, or from the MBSR students, they see the clinic and they join the clinic. So in fact, it's true. Yeah, happens a lot. And so it's mainly MBSR. And because now I'm doing this MEMTCP program, course ending 2 years with Tara Brack and Jack Cornfield. It's the end in January. And so we had to do these practical courses. So I'm also giving these foundations, which I call Mindfulness Foundations. And that I'm giving it a 6-week course. And usually people love that. And so I'm starting to see how that works. I think everyone asks, as teachers, let's have a MBSR too. Everyone is asking, let's have another level, right? I think. And there's not another level. This is it. So some of them did twice. And I have one that did 3 times. So now I said, okay, I really have to find the solution here. So I'm far from being John Kabat-Zinn, but I tried to do something. And so far it's going well.
You have a saying for your practice, just stay?
Just stay, just be.
Just be. What does that saying mean for you?
Oh, yeah. That just appeared while meditating one day. And I think this just beats everywhere, even in the last album of U2, amazing music. And but this appeared a long time ago, and it also connected with stop, take a breath, be aware, and then be you. So this where it came this idea.
Yeah. And have you developed any programs for working with physicians at this point?
Yeah, so that's a big issue. That's what I'm trying to do. So I contact the 2 biggest private hospitals in Portugal, and they were very keen. But unfortunately, I think it will take longer, because in one hospital where I really work, the clinic director, so my colleague, says, we don't have stress in our physicians. I'm like, well, we need to change something here. You need to retire, and then I will go back again. So that's the issue, of course. And all the administrators, everyone was very keen to, okay, let's do it. Let's have it that we can offer. And then the university contacted me, in Lisbon University, a public one, big one, contacted me, and I did a course for just physicians, and everything was prepared, even the papers to announce, the video to promote, everything. And one colleague of mine said, no, you cannot give that. You are not a psychologist or a psychiatrist. So I will not consider you as an option. Yeah, so they cancel everything. But I think slowly we'll go there. I have a lot of nurses and doctors in my courses. So I think this is a way everywhere in the world. And I think we'll get there also, because I think all physicians, health professionals, they really need.
So what are those issues that you see medical doctors, healthcare professionals facing that, brings you to, well, you know them well because you're right there with them. And what are those issues? And maybe also, how are you kind of developing your program for them around those issues?
Everyone talks and knows, and burnout is a big issue, right? And it's a big issue in all professions, not just healthcare professionals. But I think it's more serious than that. And in fact, the data that I have is from United States and England, and it's previous to COVID. And it's, that in United States, every day a doctor commits suicide every day. And that's previous to COVID years. So, and for example, in England, the mental illness between health professionals, it's around 60%, and the general population, it's 28. So, and the doctors, we have an issue is because we don't ask for help. We are not used to ask for help, and we take care, and we probably will self-medicate ourselves. So that's why the increasing levels of suicides now. And so that's the other big extreme. Till there, you have burnout, you have depression, you have medical error, you have, I think doctors are, between patients and financial interest. So patients want us call them to be available to them, and then the administrators, they want us to 20 minutes is too much, 15 minutes of an appointment. Yeah, each week I receive an email saying, this week you did this amount of appointments, you should have done this, your colleagues did this, your delay is this. So, and I'm like, okay, let's go see each one and let's see why I had less, why. So I think this is very difficult to work in these conditions because then we cannot connect with patients. And I think it's the basis of our profession. So now there is this term used, this compassion fatigue, and they say maybe we can use it empathic fatigue also. Compassion fatigue. Compassion is it's the medical act. It's compassion. Yeah, we see a patient, you connect with them and you want to help. So this is the basis of our practice. And in so many years, I never read this word in any book, medical book. So I think there is a lot to do with this, with our community. And I think we really need help. I think in the United States, for example, in last year, 20% of the health professionals left medical profession totally, forever. So that was 500,000.
Wow.
Your data, not mine. We don't have that kind of filtration. And this is very meaningful. And I think if no one will take care of us, it will be very difficult that we can really take care of patients the way I think it makes sense. We can just prescribe, see, okay, you have this, then you have that, and let's go see you in 1 month. But I think I believe in medicine in a different way. That's why since I'm young, I wanted to be a doctor because of this connection. So with mindfulness, I also find this different way to connect.
So in developing your program, are you focusing mostly on self-compassion, basic mindfulness, somehow moving away from this empathy fatigue and in certain practices specifically, or how are you adapting your program for them?
I think mainly it's around self-knowledge, because I think the issue, it's really self-knowledge. It's very difficult because sometimes I'm saying, this happened, talking about mindfulness or something, an experience that I had. And I see many colleagues away from mindfulness and meditation saying, oh, I feel that too. So, oh, that happened also with me. So I think it's about self-knowledge. So I think also it's about bringing some examples. I think so we can understand each other because we all talk the same language. That's another. And to be very practical, because I'm doctors, we don't like to be very, I don't know how to say this in English. We need to be very practical, very precise. So I think I am trying to bring in this direction.
And do you see any way of meeting the administrators that keep pushing around that balance of finances and the medical practice to, they're more on the finance side. Any hope of bringing them more to the humanity side for the doctor's sake?
I don't know. I would like to, but it's incredible when you will have a meeting and they say, yeah, last month you just had 86 appointments and you should have 94. And you are like, did you, if I did the good. So that makes me believe that we are far away. We'll be there, but we need to be resilient.
Yeah. Well, I'm happy to hear you say we'll get there. So that's good. Often when I get reactive, people will say to me, but you're a mindfulness teacher. Why are you irritated or why are you reactive around a situation? And I often say to them, well, mindfulness teachers can be reactive too, the same way policemen can get tickets or doctors get sick. And you recently actually had a health issue that I know of, and I don't know if it's okay for you to speak towards it, what it was like being on the other side as a patient, what it's like now, and how you're meeting that with your mindfulness practice.
Yeah, for sure. I had a 1 month of horrible pain. Horrible. It was really without sleep and then the surgery and for sure mindfulness really helped me a lot because in two ways, I think. First is to deal with pain. I was just trying to do everything that I learned, focus on pain, just see how it goes, stays, where is the limits. And I tried to see if that will help me. And sometimes it helped, but it was too much. And also, but I think what really helped me more, it's interesting because I was grateful somehow. And I think that came from all this work and connection with mindfulness and meditation, because I was grateful in different ways. I was grateful because I didn't have a cancer. I was grateful in meaning that I was grateful that at least my prognosis will not be so difficult or so not so challenging. I was grateful because I was imagining all different kind of pain, and I was grateful because I was with this pain, not all the others that I could imagine. I was grateful because this helped me to stop, and I was unable to stop. So this helped me to stop my life, and I think I needed that. I don't know. I just felt grateful somehow. It's not easy that certainly you depend on your kids. And I really needed them. I live alone with them. And so they had to feed me, they had to wash me, they had to take care of me. And even my youngest son with 12 years, he was reading me his books, child books, because when I was reading when he was young, because I was so much pain. So it was lovely to see that all the supports and to be on the other side, not just as a doctor, but as a mother. And suddenly you need to be vulnerable and you have to allow yourself to be vulnerable. And that was very challenging. And that made me at the same time decide I need to look for this because it's not so easy for me to be vulnerable. So I think all this takes different lessons and different perspectives of life.
Oh, that's inspiring. I'm also inspired to hear about how your kids took care of you. And, any thoughts you have about not necessarily your children specifically, but children in particular, in general, growing up in a world that right now is so seemingly fragmented and challenging?
You know what I feel? I feel that most of our kids, they learn with they are pure and they are in the present and they are so sweet, which all of them giving lots of presents and those draws and those writing lovely things. And then what I felt and I see when they start to grow, it's very challenging to see not life changing them because they have to grow, but to make them close themselves and being so, they are not aware of the world in a way. They are not aware of the feelings of others. It's very difficult. So I think what I feel wrong, and I think this is everywhere, I try to make a huge work for them to be aware of themselves, so then they can be aware of their colleagues, their friends, their parents, their family, and everyone in the street. So sometimes I remember I decide to make a challenging uh, um, concurso. Well, I said, let's everyone have a camera, a machine, and let's go to the street and take pictures to people that are smiling. And so everyone went, and it was very funny to see all pictures and what they noticed and how people then smiled to them. So I think I am trying to, when I can, to make them realize there are so many simple things in life. That's why I took them now 2 weeks to Nepal, to that Everest base camp. I put some backpack on them and I went to Nepal and for 2 weeks climbing. And it was amazing because I wanted them to see how it is, that culture. And they saw this home away house for children that they live in village, I don't know, 4,000, 5,000, and they cannot be there. So they saw them there. I took them 3 years ago to Myanmar also. I put the backpack on them, each one, and we went also to Myanmar for 2 weeks, and it was also amazing. And for that, we always have our to save money, So it's very interesting to see them saving money. So I try to bring all this so they can, I don't know, maybe be more aware of the world and try to bring the word love and compassion to their lives. Let's see what will be in the end.
Well, they're fortunate to have you as their mother. And we're fortunate to have you here, Barbara. Thank you for joining us. Is there anything else you might want to add as an inspiration for anybody who is viewing this? Any closing thoughts?
First, that you are my inspiration. Often I wonder, I feel like sometimes when I don't know what to do, I remember you and your peaceful in your space that you give us. And I bring that to me. So that is something that for sure I would like to be always grateful. And yeah, yesterday I saw something from, I'm reading, I was in Omega, and with the Tipema Shodru in May, and she was really teaching about Tonglen. And then I'm reading the book because Thursday I will give a practice, a big practice, and I want to speak about Tonglen. And I saw these aspirations, and I remember maybe could be, I would for sure this, but maybe I could read this and end with this. It's okay?
Oh, absolutely. Thank you.
And I think this is connected with teach and learn and practice and all our path. So it's all the virtue I have accomplished until this moment, and whatever I may accomplish in the future, I dedicate for the welfare of all sentient beings. Like a drop of water put into the ocean, may it never diminish. May sickness, war, famine, and needless suffering decrease. May wisdom, love, and compassion increase for myself and others now and in the future. Sorry for I try to do my best.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful.
Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. Thanks again for being here. Until we meet again, hopefully in person here in Portugal. And thank you again, Barbara. It's wonderful to have been with you. Take care.
Click down below to join our Mindfulness Teacher Community Network on Facebook, where you are invited to post and share. Also, subscribe to Sing to the Mountain Studio. Ring the bell so you don't miss out on future recordings.